Hey everybody, and welcome back to my channel. It's Theresa here, and today I'm hoping to get days 21, 22, and 23 done in my 2021 December daily album. And I'm at the place where I'm like, let's get this thing out of the way because it's starting to feel a little stale, and I'm also just ready to clear off 2021 and just focus on this year's album. And so what I went ahead and did was print the photos that I needed, and I've gone ahead and assigned the final foundation pages for these last 4 days. And so for day 21, I've got a photo of the Nutcracker ornament from our date night at the ballet, and I've got this mostly green foundation page. And so what I did was I had already created the white background circles, punched these little transparency circles, added little stars, they're star brads to them. And you can see here on the back how I planned out where they needed to be punched so that they would be centered on the page. And then my plan is to trim out the photo, trim out just a 4-inch circle and add that to one of the transparencies. I'm leaving the center one just the way it is, although I probably will go ahead and adhere that down so that it will stay in place. And then I also took a little tag. I don't know where this tag came from. It's probably from Felicity Jane. And I went ahead and punched it in a 3-inch circle for the journaling, and that's going to go here. I'm not sure yet if I'm going to put it underneath the wreath or on top of the wreath. I don't know yet. Probably underneath to match that one, and then the writing for that is on top. And then I've got a title, although I don't know if it really needs a title, but this is really pretty up against the green. And then of course I'll add a number, and that's my plan for that day. So I'm going to go ahead and jump in, and then I'll come back and start with day 22 so you can see how that goes. Oh, and one more thing I wanted to I wanted to just say, you're going to see this little tray of red, mostly red embellishments. And I went into my stash because the next couple of pages read a lot of green to me. And so I thought, why not just go in and pull all the red embellishments and use some of those up. They're just die cuts, word phrases, labels, strips, just all kinds of fun stuff in here. But I thought that might be fun to pull from for these last few pages. Look, I've got my Santa in here. I know where he's going. So just wanted to explain this to you. The products that are in here are mostly from Allie Edwards, Pink Paisley, crepe paper. There's a couple of things from Pretty Little Studio, and Ellie Studio. Who knows what is in here? It's going to be a fun little discovery. So I hope you enjoy watching. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get this circle cut. I have mentioned in the past with this circle cutter how it's definitely not my favorite. Let me know down below if you have a favorite circle cutter that cuts anywhere from 3 to 12 inches. I would love to hear some recommendations on that, because the one I have is not making me happy. So anyway, moving forward in the process, there's a couple of options for using these transparency circles. I chose to back the photo transparency with the full 3-inch, I'm sorry, with the full 4-inch photo. And you could, however, make it smaller with a white border. You could trim the inside of the transparency, fussy cut the inside of the transparency inside that wreath, and that would be very pretty. But I decided to just leave it as is. And so getting it back into the album here, it was a little bit tricky. I did use 3 really tiny star brads, and interestingly enough, I had 2 smaller ones and 1 larger one. So I used the larger one in the center, of course, keeping with the hierarchy. And then I mentioned how I had punched this little tag. This is like a 3-inch circle, I believe, or maybe 2.5 inches, and it's just got a simple little red dot grid pattern. And so I'm going to go ahead and write my journaling on that. I just wrote a few words about how we found these nutcracker ornaments in the gift shop after the ballet on our date night. And so I was adding them to the tree a couple of days before Christmas, just a last minute addition. Don't you love little things like that? And they're so pretty. They had, I don't know, so many choices in that shop for nutcracker ornaments. And I want them all. I want to collect them all. But alas, I narrowed it down to 3 and bought 3. And so hence the reason for this page. So once I've got the photo in, I've got the journaling in, now I need a number. And I mentioned how I was particularly drawn to some of my red embellishments here. So I'm just going through and sort of looking for some pieces that might be appropriate. I think what I want to do in terms of page design is to have the number 21 in the center at the bottom, and then have a red, something red coming out to the lower right hand corner of the page. And so these transparency titles that I've had forever from Ali Edwards, I'm kind of liking how they look, and then it's just kind of trying to decide what else to put with it just to help it look like a rounded out title / embellishment cluster thing. I don't even know. But I'm liking how this looks. One, you can hide the adhesive for the title underneath that banner, and that's convenient. And you can sort of tuck the M underneath the 1 so that they're connected visually, and it sort of flows to the right of this page. And so I think that that's a pretty good use of the space on this page. But then I thought, well, you know what, the transparencies need a little bit more as well, and I thought the journaling circle needed a bit more too. So I'm gonna find something in here. I'm loving pulling from these little items in my stash. It's like a surprise. I have no idea what's gonna come out, what's gonna pop out at me. But I just chose a little word strip just to keep it simple, but still show this little circle a little bit of love. And again, repeating the red. I've always stated that you can bring in almost any color into a layout that you want. The key is to repeat it across the page, and that way your eye feels like it belongs there because it recognizes it. It's familiar. So that's really what drove me to add these little pieces here after this point was just to repeat a little bit of red here and there. And so once the little banner was on the journaling circle, I was like, well, it needs something on top of the transparency too. And so that's when I thought, well, let me put a little word strip onto that top transparency over the journaling, and then let me put a bow on that last transparency that's over top of the photo. And that seemed like a great idea, except that the one that I had that was in vellum was torn. Oh, sad face. It was torn. So then I thought, well, surely one of these crepe paper sticker sheets has a bow. And sure enough, it was pink. But that's okay. Pink is closely related to red, and a little unexpected pop of color is definitely okay too. And then a couple of little tiny holly stickers, and I think that page turned out perfect. Okay, so moving on to day 22. And what I did was I took an Allie Edwards 10 by 8 template, put in my 3 photos, added my journaling, and then left the rest of it blank. And so what I'm going to do then is pretty simple. Just add a couple of little things, add the day number, and punch it and call it done. I'm putting it on the back of day 21, which turned out like that. And so that's perfect. It's going to be really easy and simple, and then I can come back and move on to day 23 with you. Okay, so I'm going to keep the embellishments, probably keep the embellishments on this page pretty simple. I don't want to compete too much with the photos, but it is fun just to add a few little things, a little fun embellishments, and just sort of bring in some of the sentiments of these photos. I loved how this template turned out. This may be one of my all-time favorite templates, and it may be one of my all-time favorite photo stories ever. And I can't say enough about how cool it's been to bring in some of the photos from after Christmas into this album. And it's something that I'm going to think really long and hard about in future December dailies, is how to incorporate photos from Christmas Day, from Christmas Eve, and even after that into this album, so that you not only get just the prep photos, but you also get the end result photos. And I think that's something that I've realized, it's like an epiphany that I've realized has been missing in my December daily albums. And I don't know if that inspires you too and gives you some things to think about, but I hope so. I hope that you'll consider, even if you save a spot for a photo on down the road, if you work throughout the month of December, I think that would be an okay strategy as well. And you could definitely do that with a template like this. So the main goal here is, because I've already got the journaling and I've already got the photos, but I do need a day number, and like I said, just a few fun embellishments. And that meant sort of coming up with a color scheme for the page. And obviously the cranberries bring in a lot of red into these colors, so I'm going to incorporate more of the red. And I really was liking those transparency hearts. I liked how they've already shown up in the album once, or probably several times, but they get to show up again. And it's a really cool way to use up your supplies like that when you get a pack that has like 1 million in it, to repeat it throughout the album. And so what happens is it becomes the red heart in the lower left hand corner becomes sort of a home base for the number for that day. And I think I'm going to use this gold on white again. These particular ones, because I didn't have the new ones from Ali Edwards. So these particular ones are from Felicity Jane. But Ali Edwards did a very similar set this year. I don't know if they're sold out or anything like that. But at any rate, that's a nice home base for the number. And it makes a lot of sense to put it there, but then to somehow tie it in visually with the journaling that's next to it, and that becomes the task now. It was either put the number next to the text and have embellishments on the left side of the number, or put the number here in the lower left hand corner and do the embellishment cluster around it to the right, and that will link it to that journaling on the right. And then because I put one heart in there, I thought, well, let's add a second heart up here in the second, in that upper right hand corner, just to repeat sort of that heart and kind of bring your eye up around that area too in the photo, because that's where the finished bundt cake is. And it really was pretty, and it was delicious too. Let me know if you're interested in the recipe. It's on my Pinterest board. If you want to go look there, I super recommend it. It's delicious. And then after finding the little red hearts and everything, I looked in my acrylic pieces and found these little mint slash light blue stars. And after finishing the layout and looking on ahead to the next page that I'm doing, that's going to be faced right beside this layout, this ended up being a genius design decision, because these little stars, that color isn't really in any of those photos anywhere, and I could have used any color to complement the red, but this was a genius color because it's actually the background color of the background of the page for day 23. And so I think you'll see that when you look at the detail photos at the end of the video. You'll see how this really ties this whole spread together, even though it's 2 different days, 2 different stories, 2 different photos. So this was a genius move. Those acrylic pieces, the majority of them are from Color Cast Designs. And so I'm going to go ahead and punch, adhere this all together, and then we'll move on to day 23. Okay, so last one for today, and I'm going to go ahead and use the triangle wreath page that I created using crepe paper, and I'll be sure and link the process video for this foundation page in the blog post for you, so that you can see how I pulled all this together. It turned out so pretty, and the lovely thing about this is that it doesn't need a lot at all. I figured that the best place for the photo would be right in the center, and when I laid the photo right in the center, it sort of blends in with all of the pattern papers and the vellums. And so I also cut a little bit bigger circle to go behind the photo, and that helps it pop a little bit, and also creates a little spot for my journaling. I also want to do just of course the day number for this. This is day 23, and then probably a little gold word art or something like that to add to it. So I'm going to go ahead and just jump in, and then I will finish up this process video for today. Okay, last little bit for this day. I hope you're enjoying this set of pages. I really had a great time creating them, and it's really cool how getting down to the end like this and being like, I'm ready to just make decisions and get it on the page, relieves some of that overthinking and then it brings it back to fun. So I went ahead and cut out the photo here and have that white background, and I'm going to do my journaling around it. And notice how I'm writing out my journaling, and I want to just, I say this every year because every year I put this story in my album somewhere, and I pause to reflect on how far our families have come over the last 12 years of being a blended family. And before we blended our families and right after my divorce, that next Christmas I had exactly $80 in my bank account for my children for their Christmas. And so I made the most of that, and I had some wonderful friends in a wonderful church community at that time that helped to provide for us and created a wonderful Christmas for us. And I always think back on that year and on how difficult that year was, but how far we've come, and how at that time I never would have believed that it was going to be possible to have such wonderful Christmases together, or to have presents like this and be able to put them under the tree for our children. And so that is why I do this layout. It's not about bragging about look how many presents we have or anything like that. It is an act of remembrance and humility and gratitude for me. And so using this page, using this background page made it extra special because it is one of my favorite pages that I've ever made in all time. And the photo looks fantastic in the center right there, just like it is. I used the number 23, the gold on white again, and I'm just tucking some of these little gold puffy stickers inside those leaves and around and behind that whole element as well, and using some of the stars around the 23 and at the top, and it just turned out really magical. I did put the bow right in the center at the bottom, just like it's a real wreath. And then I'm also gonna just add the little word magic across the top. I had to think a little bit about where I wanted to put that, but I think I really like it there, balancing out the number 23. And so I want to just say thank you so much for following along, for watching. Thank you for all your lovely comments. I appreciate you so much and enjoy sharing this process with you each year. I'll see you back here again soon. Bye-bye.